In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a new rainbow loom 4-leaf clover bracelet. So you can make this bracelet with a loom set up with the pins in a staggered position or in a rectangular position. I'm going to be showing it in the staggered position for this video. So you want to have the arrows facing away from you, and you need to choose your colors. I've chosen white for the background of the bracelet and dark green for the clovers. Now we're only going to be working with the center row and the bottom row of the loom, and we're going to start by putting our clovers on. So on this bottom row, I'm going to skip the first pin. I'm going to go to that second pin, and I'm going to place this dark green band. It's going to go diagonally up and twist, and then push down. And now I'm going to go to this center row on the second pin in, and I'm going to cross over this, making an X. It's a longer stretch, and I also want to twist. And now what I want to do is on all 4 of these pins, I want to place a band that I'm going to triple. So in order to do that, I'm going to place it on my hook. I'm going to twist and put it on again so that it's doubled, twist and put it on again so that it's tripled, and then I want to place that on the top of one of these 4 pins. I'm going to do that for all 4. So again, I'm putting it on my hook, twisting, getting it back onto double, and then twist again for tripled. Just place this on the next one. Going to repeat this again so it's tripled. Just place it right on the top, and then one more time, and it's going to go on that last one. Now, as I've said, you can do this with the loom set up in a rectangular position, and I'll show you what that would look like. If you have your loom set up in a rectangle, it's going to make a square. So you're placing those 2 bands and then those tripled bands on all 4. So either way that you want to do it. And now I'm going to work my way down the loom. So I'm going to skip the next pin and go to the following, and I'm going to repeat that same pattern. I'm going to place the band up and diagonally to that center row and twist. And then I'm going to take another band and cross it. Remember, it's a longer stretch here. And twist. And then push that down. And then I want to add a tripled band on the top of all 4 of those pins. So I'm just going to do this on my hook. Now if you want, you can triple the band using just your hands, just your fingers. And I do find it easier when I'm doubling a band to just use my fingers, but since I'm tripling and it's going to be tighter, I think it's easier to use your hook. And then one more time, we're just tripling this band, putting it right on the top here. And now I'm going to work my way down here. Again, I'm going to skip this next pin and go to the next one over. The band is going up diagonally to that center row and twisting. And then I'm going to cross it and twist, push this down. Again, I'm going to put those tripled bands on all 4 of those pins. And so I'm just showing you how to do this on one loom, but when it is done, it is going to be short and you will need to add extensions. So if you do own two looms, I would recommend placing the looms end to end and making this bracelet twice as long. Okay, I'm on my last one here for this clover. And now again, I'm going to just keep going down here. I'm going to skip the next pin and go to the one next to that. This is going to be my last one. Going diagonally up and twisting, and then crossing over, making an X, pushing this down. Now I just have to add my tripled bands. I want to make sure you're getting all three of those bands to go over the pin. Some bands are a little bit more stretchy than others, so some will be easier to do and some will be a little bit tighter to get on. Okay, this is the last one. And now I'm going to go back to the start. Again, the arrows are facing away from you. And now what we're going to do is put on the rest of the bracelet. You want to make sure that all of these are pushed down so you have room to add the next bands. So I'm going to be starting on this center pin here, and I'm going to be placing two bands at once. So you're taking two bands. You're always going to be using two for the rest of this bracelet. And we're going to just place that one to connect those two rows. And now we're just going to go down both of these rows using two bands at once, and we're going to do that all the way to the end. So that's the next step, and you still want to keep pushing this down because we're still going to have to add the cap bands on top of these bands. And I would recommend using bands that are more slippery or smooth, that can glide against each other. If you have bands that are more rubbery and don't want to slide against each other, you're going to have a harder time when you're trying to loom. So the rainbow loom bands are great. Just going to keep working my way down till I get to the end of the loom. You're going all the way to the last pin on each row. And then finally you're going to take two more bands, and it's going to go connect these two at the end. And then the last thing we're going to do is put the cap bands on. So for that, what you want to do is place your band on your hook, twist, and put it back on to double it. And we're just going to be placing these to connect the two rows. So it's going to go from that center row down to the bottom. They're all just going to be parallel to one another. So we're just going to do this for the whole length of the loom. And this just helps hold it together. If you didn't add these bands, you'd have a big hole in between the two rows, except for where the clovers are. Now this is the last one. And now what you want to do is turn your loom completely around so that now the arrows will be facing towards you, and so that all of these open ends of the pins are facing you. There's one more band that we're going to put on, and we're going to double it, and it's going to be on this very end pin here. It's going to go right on the top. And now it's time to start looming. So I will just do one row at a time. So what you're going to do is start here on the end pin, and you can see that there's a lot of bands on here. So the top two bands are the cap band that we want to push back with our hook. The next set of bands is going to go this way that we're going to grab, and then finally there's the bottom set that goes this way. So you're going to take the back of your hook, push back, grab the top two bands, the next two bands I should say, hold this cap band in place with your finger or thumb, and move these two bands over. Again, you're going back down through, grabbing the bottom two bands, and this time it's going to move straight forward. So now I'm just going to work on this top row here. So on all of these pins we have that cap band, so you're always wanting to go down inside, pushing back on that cap band. Now here we have a set of the white bands, the two white bands you want to grab and pull forward. Then you're going back down inside, and we have the three green bands, which was the band that we tripled, and then on the very bottom we have the band that we want to grab. So you're pushing back on these three green bands and grabbing just that bottom band, pulling it out and moving it forward. Again, we're going down into the next pin inside of that cap band, pushing back on it, grab the two white bands. Make sure you're just getting the two white bands. It's a little tricky. And then pulling forward. Then again, we're going down inside this same pin. We're pushing back on those top three green bands and grabbing just that very bottom green, pulling it out and forward. And now you're going down inside the next pin, pushing back on the cap band. Now you only have the two white ones to move in this one. And now for the next one starts the green again, so you're pushing back, grabbing the two white, moving them forward, and then going back in that same pin, pushing back on those top three green bands, grabbing that bottom green and moving it forward. Up to the next one, you're pushing back on the cap band, getting the two white and moving them forward, and now going down through, push back on all three green, grab that bottom green and move it forward. On to the next, we have just the two bottom white. Now on this next one, we're pushing back on that cap band. We have the two white. Go down through, push back on all three green at the top, grab that bottom green and release it, move it forward. Same thing for the next one. We're pushing back on the cap bands, moving those two white forward, and then pushing back on the three green, grab that bottom green. Okay, we're almost to the top here. We're grabbing the bottom two white on the next one. Then we have the two white, and then that bottom green. So you want all three of those upper green to get behind your hook. Pull this forward. Again, we have the two white, and then finally We need this bottom green. And then on this last one, we want the 2 white to come out and move to that center row. Now we're going to go back down to the end again with the arrow still facing you, and now we're just going to work our way up this center row. So this one's a little harder for me to show, but you're going to go down through the center, push back. You're going to have 4 white bands on top. You want to push back on all of them, grab this bottom 2 white bands, and you might need to hold this in place with your finger and move them forward. It's going to be the same thing as the first row. You're going to go in through the center, push back on any cap bands, grab those next 2 white bands, pull them up through and move them forward. Then you need to go back down. You're going to be pushing back on all of the 3 top green bands and just grabbing that very bottom one, pulling it up through and moving it forward. Again, you need the 2 white bands to come off first. And then you need to go back down through, push back on the top 3 green. Sometimes they're hard to separate. Grab this bottom green band and move it forward. Now for this next one, we only have the 2 white. And then for this next one, we're getting the 2 white. And then that bottom green. They should come out pretty easily. You shouldn't have to really be forcing them. Next, we're getting the 2 white. And again, this bottom green. And I'm just going to keep working my way up here. We have just the 2 white on the next one. Again, the 2 white. And then the bottom green. We're getting near the end here. And here's the bottom green. Pulling it up through and moving it forward. Next we have just the 2 white. And here's the last clover. So you want those 2 white. And then that bottom green. And finally, you have the 2 white. Gotta make sure you get them both. And then finally, the last green. Put that on the top. And so now you're ready to take it off of your loom. So what I'm going to recommend is, instead of pulling it all off from the top, since we don't want the clovers to get all out of shape, I'm going to recommend just carefully taking it off by using your hook. I'll start here at this end, and with the bands that have the green clovers, I would put your hook down inside and just carefully take them off, because you don't want them to get all messed up. So I'm just going to do this, work my way up. I will fast forward here. Now when you get near the end, I leave the last couple on. Take your hook and go down through this very end pin, push it out to the side, and grab another band, pull it up through, and then put the other loose end on. Now hold these in place, and you can carefully remove the rest of the bracelet. So here is what your bracelet looks like when you take it off of the loom, and it's kind of messy because, as you can see, some of the bands are still down inside. So what you want to do now is fix all of the circles. So each one of the clover leaves should have 3 circles for the band that we tripled. So what you're going to do is just go through and get all 3 bands to be up through the top. And then you can just go around and fix it so they're all in a good position. And then you can see what it's supposed to look like. It takes just a minute. And so that's what your clover will look like. You just want to go and do that for all of the different clovers. Like I said, they get stuck down inside. So you just have to fluff it up and get them evened out. Now once you get your bracelet all fluffed up and you make sure that you have all the 3 bands on all of the clover leaves, this is what it's going to look like. And now you're going to need to add an extension. So what you want to do for that is to take your loom and then have it so the arrows are facing away from you. And you can take your band, whichever color you'd like. I'm going to stick with white, and I'm just going to place about 4 bands. This is going to be just half of the extension. And then I'm going to take the 2 bands that are on my hook here and place them on the top of this pin where we just left off. And then what you want to do is reach inside, grab this band, and just pull it back. And you're just going to keep doing that. And then when you get to the end, you want to take this off. So reach your hook inside, and then you can pull this off. And now you need to add a clip. So I have an S clip here. You can use an S clip or a C clip or whatever you have available. Just going to get those 2 bands through. And now I want to add another extension on the other side. So I'm just going to take my hook and go through the end here. Going to grab another white band, pull it through, and then put that loose end back on. I'm going to repeat this same pattern. I'm going to add 4 more bands, starting from the end with the arrows facing away from you. And now you're going to again put these 2 bands on here. and you're going to go down inside here and pull it back towards you. Tie you back to the start here. And then again, you're going to take this off. And then on the other side of this S-clip here, I'm just going to hook it through. Make sure both bands get through. And then here you have your bracelet. And here is another bracelet that I made with the 4-leaf clover design. And this time I used black for the background, and also I used 2 looms connected end to end, so you can see how much longer it is. And you might still need to add just a couple extra bands to this to fit around your wrist as well. So hopefully you've liked this video, and you can always leave me comments on YouTube or Facebook, or send me pictures of your creations. Thank you.